Stephen Kerr, around 4 minutes. Mr. Kerr.
It's a pleasure to follow Ash Regan, who gave an excellent speech. It's impossible to overstate the impact of Adam Smith's thinking on the modern world. He's probably the most influential, universally influential Scot of all time. And I'm going to take one aspect of the many strands of his philosophy to focus on in my speech. Smith believed that with the right measure of regulation, society is empowered. He believed the market is an engine for prosperity when it is legally framed. And this is the definition of a free market that I strongly believe in, because it is a model based on what works best and what works for people. But truthfully, I don't think we have many regulators that we could hold up as being all that good at what they do. Most of them are paper tigers, pretty much toothless. Now, we are a regulatory body, Scotland's Parliament, and we can and should draw inspiration from Smith's thinking in this place, especially when it comes to how we as parliamentarians scrutinise the executive and introduce new laws and regulations and amend existing laws and regulations. And I don't think we are even half as effective at this as we could be. Some of that is related to process, but much of it is derived from the culture of this place. Everything feels truncated and lacking in thoroughness. Too often, things are treated to the level of just surface deep. And people are rightly critical of the quality of the laws that we pass here. And they're even more critical about the lack of enforcement and accountability. And they are concerned that our scrutiny of the executive is not as robust as it ought to be. We don't set the bar high enough in this Parliament on what constitutes good government. And it's often said that we haven't developed a backbench Holyrood culture, that there aren't enough free thinkers in this place. And that is a far cry from the great figures of the Enlightenment. And all of this is highly relevant to Adam Smith and his legacy, because I don't believe we spend nearly enough time debating, contesting ideas in this chamber. The structure of our debates mitigates against it, and there's seldom enough time to properly engage the more serious and the often complex issues we face. It was the much-missed David McCletchie who said of this Parliament, "We appear to have two options, just two options, to ban something or to make it compulsory." We rarely get to the root causes of the issues we face. We often end up talking to ourselves about symptoms, not root causes. Facing up to our failures, Presiding Officer, as a Parliament, or objectively judging the outcomes or effectiveness of the regulations we put in place isn't easy. Of course it isn't. It's much easier to stick to self-congratulation or to say safely within the debate brief that we've been handed. But up pops Adam Smith to bring us back to root causes and unintended outcomes, and the whole issue of human nature. Not human nature as we'd like it to be, but human nature as it is. This is Smith, in The Theory of Moral Sentiments, talking directly to us in this Parliament. Of course, he didn't know he was speaking to us, but he was. He wrote, "To judge ourselves as we judge of others is the great exertion of candour and impartiality. In order to do this, we must look at ourselves with the same eyes with which we look at others. We must imagine ourselves not the actors, but the spectators of our own character and conduct." Presiding Officer, we really should let our inner Adam Smith out. We are quick to pass the buck, to blame, but do we really imagine ourselves not the actors, but the spectators of our own character and conduct? 2 years into my service in this Parliament, my answer must be that we can and must do better. But reform of this Parliament is fundamentally essential. Now, last week, in a member's debate, Michelle Thompson said something about me and a potato. But I'm going to be as generous as I normally am, Presiding Officer, and say I pay tribute to Michelle Thompson for bringing this debate. I understand that artificial intelligence was beyond answering the question. I got that. But I pay tribute to her, and I don't often agree with her on substantive issues, or maybe frighteningly, increasingly, I do find myself agreeing with her, from her perspective, not from mine, because she's undoubtedly one of the free thinkers of this Parliament. And we need more free thinking. Adam Smith speaks to us as clearly today as he did to those of his day. Let us use this anniversary to reflect, to look at ourselves with the same eyes which we look at others, and be the free thinkers that Scotland needs as never before.